Alright, just got done wet sanding the one side. See, I put a darker gray, just a spray bomb primer on before I put the surfacer on, just to get it, I know when I'm cutting through. Because I hit the wood a couple of times, and so now we have a plug. It's a lot of work for a plug. A lot of work to get just to the point of making the mold. I'm going to back up. So I was sanding these yesterday. I had put surfacer on them, and it's the morning right now, and I was sanding them yesterday, and I had this one setting here and another one setting where this one is set, and I'm sanding the side, and I'm slowly pushing on the piece, and of course I knocked him off. Hit the ground. It wasn't catastrophic, but it certainly was a lot of work. So I had to go in. It fell on one of the corners. I don't remember which one. But anyway, it just, probably this one, because it just flash cracked the plaster. Put stretch cracks in the plaster, so I had to comb that entire, it must have fallen on this corner. I had to comb that entire side, come around the front, you can see where it was cracking, and go around the whole thing again. And so I'm in the process right now. I just put the lacquer based heavy primer, spot putty, I guess, on it. This all stayed good. This is ready to receive 600, but now I gotta probably have to get it another, not probably, I will have to coat it again, probably with surfacer though, so that I can block it down, because I gotta, these, of course, you got different material. You got plaster, you got primers, and a crack that I cut out. I just took a razor knife and cut the cracks out until I could get back to where it wouldn't blow off with the blowgun. Anyway, so I went in there and sanded it, but you know, I can kind of feel the feather edge, although it's not that significant. You know, something you can obviously sand that out of the mold. I just don't want to get into that, so I'll have to go around and carefully sand it and keep on going. So that puts a little delay in it, but the all the mold release agent and all that stuff is coming in probably, if not today, tomorrow. So I still have time. It's just that instead of being committed to getting more interior panels done on this, I'm back on this. So. All right, flashing the first coat. You can see the wood. Just want to get a dust coat. When you get the light just right, you can see there, you can. That's where I just started exposing the plaster underneath. That just sucks up that primer surfacer. But jeez, that's staying. I'll try to spray it a little heavy and block over it, but everything came out. Again, this is the repaired mold, repaired plug from dropping the doggone thing on the floor. I should say, by comparison, this is the one that is now blocked to 600 grit. Here I expose the primer, the spray can primer that I put on it. So that's where I'm stopping and cut through. There is a spot, you know, there I touched the plaster, but I mean, that's not going to hold me up. That's not going to suck up all the juice when I come to making the fiberglass piece out of it. So this whole thing will get waxed anyway, and several 2-3 coats, and that'll seal most of that up. But you just don't want large areas, right? You don't want large areas. All right, just enough for 3 coats, kinda. 2, first coat was the dust coat, you know, tack coat. Second one was a little bit heavier, kind of a light coat, but a little bit heavier. And then, or no, the second coat was heavy. Try to get in there and cover, and that's where I sagged just a little, because I saw this was just sucking in too much, so I hit that a couple of times, and you can see it's wetter, more wet right in here. So I just wanted to make sure I could blend that out. And then this didn't work, but I think I'll just hit it with some glaze real quick before I sand it, because he started to build up a little bit, so it'll block out. But I just don't want to expose a large stripe of that plaster, which typically this goes okay, but when you drop it on the floor, you kind of open yourself up for a can of worms. Anyway, so we'll let that cure out for a few hours and block it out, and hopefully tomorrow we can wax it and start making molds. I know I mentioned this, but there's 6 molds, right? So that door, those 2 molds will be that door, and then that door will be flipped. That door, the reverse of that door, and then that door on the back, it'll be cut a little bit shorter. That section is about 3 or 4 inches shorter than the door, so that'll chop off because it's this section here, it'll chop off the door hinge. And then I have to come back, and I'll just use a section of the mold to get in the post, that 2-inch section in the post. So that's just going to be, you know, maybe I'll make a couple of big ones. You know, I just need to get this profile in this area in the post, so I could make one, you know, on the 7th piece, make one and then cut it, and then put sides on it. So getting excited, actually. Okay, 2 coats of wax applied liberally and rubbed out. Now again, these aren't getting finished with spray with paint. They're getting finished with upholstery. There'll be inserts going in from here to here in this area, and those will likely be painted. They may be upholstered. I don't know yet. But that's done and waiting. But you just finished, so probably about a half an hour, and then we'll get after it. I did come back in. You'll see some new, you know, as I was I took this to 600 grit. As I took it down, I noticed that the primer, the surfacer, filled in on both of these and made too much of a bridge, so I blocked those down a little bit and then basically just cleaned it up. They're very smooth. They've got 2 coats of wax, and they are ready to rock. So while I was waiting for that paint to cure, I fabricated up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The interior panels. So there'll be a 40, I think it's 42-inch band that goes from front to back on here. And I just, I'm gonna make them all one piece. So this is 24 gauge riveted together. It transitions from 3-inch diameter round to square, where it goes into the console or the overhead. And then on the back, then I went with 18 gauge. That covers down to the interior panel. I still have to make the rear fill piece, but then this travels down, and I formed and wheeled out that radius on each side. So I'm gonna jump back on the panels, and I got the headliner, that rear panel, which is now goes around the corners flatly, comes in. We'll start to wrap up the interior project. But the transitions, very nice. From the 24 to the 18. This needed to be 18 because of all of the forming and wheeling that went on there. You see that taper in? This edge, this is the top channel that flows all the way down. That taper will be inside. It'll actually be straight cut down there. But I wanted to get one screw. Where am I at here? Up here. One screw to retain it without creating a bubble in the top panel. So this will be covered with foam, and you can see I've screwed into the sides. There's 1, 2, 3, and then it continues on down the side. Those are the 2 screws for the door, but then there's 1, 2, 3, then it starts over again. And they're all measured, and the distance on that side as compared to this side is the same. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do it with panel clips or some sort of decorative screw covers. So everything's measured out anyway. So we're staying with this though. Well, you can see the partle's not here yet. The mold release isn't here yet. So I just got to thinking, how can I be successful without getting it all over? So I built bridges around it. And this has just got packing tape on it. And touched each corner, if you can see, with silicone. And, you know. So I did that. But I can't stand still, so I pulled out the shrinker and stretcher. And with this car, all of the interior pieces, I had extra garnish moldings. And the combination of everything that I had, that's a few videos back, but the combination of everything that I had allowed me to get these 6 back up. Allowed me to get these 6 windows done. For the front, the dash is a portion of it, the header is a portion of it, and I made the side moldings. So all that was fabricated other than the dash. Well, you know, there's a lot of fabrication on the dash, but the rear window did not come with the car did not have a rear window garnish molding. I'm sure it rusted away or is buried in the dirt somewhere. So I decided to start making a garnish molding while I'm waiting for the UPS driver to get here. And so identified driver and passenger. This is the outside view of the car. Cut the cardboard, stuck it in, and just bent a 3/4 by 3/8 piece on the brake. The brake gives a decent radius, not a tight radius, but a decent one. And basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to follow the line. So made 2 pieces. This will be the inside half. Okay. This will be, I'm trying to figure out the easiest way to do this with the greatest amount of success. Okay, so then that'll set in there like that. Ish, right? You know, it's got right there. It's got to be 5/8 for the molding, which that is that piece there. So it'll sit in there like that and follow the window. So I'm making the 2 halves right now with the shrinker or the stretcher, and some shrinking, I guess, but and all the radii in this, all of these radii are 2 inches. So I can finesse my corners because I have a piece of 2-inch piping device. So I just grab out the hammers if I want to clean it up and just wrap it around here, dolly down the 3/8 flange if she starts to unwind on me, and that. So basically I'm going to make 4 of these, okay, and then trim. I'll probably weld this together when it's done, the 2 halves, and then make the other two halves, and then I'll bring them together when with a seam down the center-ish, you know, wherever that seam winds up being, and then I'll have my rear window garnish molding. Okay, the PVA Par-All mold release agent number 10 did come in. And so I got everything out. I got the gel coat, which will go down first. And I put 3 coats down. And I'm just waiting for it to completely flash off. She does shine up once you get a few coats on there too. It's kind of like a clear coat, and I don't know if you can see it in the video, but it gives it just a very light hue of green. So I sprayed this on. It went into the corners where it does not like silicone at all, which is no big deal. I mean, that's just enabling me to fill it, and these areas, of course, are the cutoff areas. So anyway, and then this guy, you know, he's all welded together. He fits on the shape. I trimmed this edge to fit inside the window opening. And now I have to make that's this side. That goes, let me get my other hand in here. There we go. So that goes between the rubber and the inside, and then I'll have to make my next piece to go into the vehicle and turn. That'll probably, I'm kind of debating, but thinking maybe I start with a 1/2 inch, maybe even 3/4 of an inch, and because you can always trim, it's harder to add than it is to remove. So sticking with it. So go on Temu or Amazon or whatever and spend $9–10 bucks and get one of these scales. I mean, that is excellent. You got all everything out there. And so I can mix look at my ratios, and mix using ounces. So I made 8.1 ounces actually, and used it wants 0.18 ounces of hardener, or of whatever, MEK, and I just counted up 0.2, you know, at 8.1 or 8.2 ounces of gel coat. So then I got them all. I just brushed it on, right? It's going to flow out into all the cracks and crevices. So this is non-waxed. I did not add wax to this gel coat. I do not want it to fully cure because I'm not going to be doing this, continuing with this tonight. So I wanted to be able to receive the next layer, which is fiberglass, which I will use waxed. I mean, for the molds here, in making the molds, I'm just going to use up all this Bondo that I have, and then when I make the pieces, I'll use the laminating resin. But I'll use that. I got my cloth. I got a whole bunch of rather matte, and I got a whole bunch of matte and cloth in here, just from Save Big Money locally. We don't have a lot here locally. So I'll start laying that guy out in the morning, and with it unwaxed, it'll remain tacky and it'll fully cure when you remove the oxygen. It's an anaerobic cure, so there you have that. Over here on this end, as I'm wrapping up the day here, I bent 2 pieces, 3/4 by 3/4. Just made some angle iron for the inside of the window, and we'll start playing with that tomorrow between coats drying. At least the guy's got something to do now. Set that mold to the side. or plug that plug to the side and finish the first mold. So now we will wait for a few minutes, have a cup of coffee, and then move this and start on that. I just thought as I was pulling the rails off the other one to bring you in and kind of explain why. I said I put these rails on to, you know, make a reservoir to hold the fiberglass in. I just used, you know, box tape, clear, wrapping tape or strapping tape or box tape, and then ran in just some little 3/4 inch screws, you know, that's all. Ran them in there and put silicone on the ends. Okay, and here now, one of the reasons I did that is for the simplicity of pulling it off. It didn't matter if the fiberglass stuck to the tape or not. It's laying down in there, and it didn't. I mean, I'm a little early. It's hard, but there is some residue still. It's not cured. So basically, you can see right in this corner, that's where the silicone was, and you know, it pulled back a little bit on there. But basically now I could take all the screws off and we can reveal the flange. I'm only 1 or 2 layers thick on the flange. Looks like about 2 layers thick on the flange because you know, that's waste for the most part, but I want a relatively flat plane when I'm laying it up so I can make sure that I get over the flange and have a surface that I can cut perfectly straight when I'm all said and done. I packed quite a bit in here for the purpose of the mold, even though I'm probably not going to pack it all the way up. Now we're looking at, I'm going to kind of come around to this side. It's only going to be not even 1/4 inch because this is where it's going to be the thickness of the fiberglass basically, because that's where the door latch is up to the surface. Remember, that's what we're covering, that piece of the door and the motor that stick out in this case. I've got basically the structure has 4 layers on it, 4 layers of glass. Then I just grabbed 2 pieces of plywood and just 1 layer of mat over it. I didn't even wet it all the way out there. I can trim that later. And so now it's kind of gonna sit. It's gonna sit for a day. I'll get on the other one. It takes about an hour, hour and a half to fully lay it up. And of course you want to lay it up either, if you get unwaxed resin, then you don't have any problems waiting. But if you get, you know, in this case I'm using up that cheap stuff, and then I'm gonna go to the laminating resin. But the laminating resin again is waxed, meaning that it fully cures, and you have to sand it between coats if you let it cure. So I want to lay up, and I'll lay up all my pieces all at one time as well. I'll throw in the you ain't to me Christmas. Mornings suck for me. I can't think of anything. I'll lay in the gel coat first. Probably a little bit, you know, just enough to give it a nice peel, a nice, like that. It'll brush on. I'm gonna put it on a little lighter than I did this. I put this on pretty heavy, and I don't know why. You can, well, it's hard. It's hard to see. You know, you're supposed to build it to a mill, I suppose. Actually, technically, I have a mill. I mean, it's rolled up the edge, but you can't really tell looking at this. This is probably a pretty good representation right here. Anyway, so now I'll set him aside and get the other one over and start on the hour-and-a-half journey. Okay. 2 done. Of course, this was sitting for an hour. He's about the shop heat. Furnace been running for a little bit, but I got it set to 63. Yeah. So he's got a little ways to go. Just finished him, oh, I don't know, about 10 minutes ago. 2 molds, pulled the sides off. So this is not the tape. The tape came off because it was sprayed with Pardal, right? It just came right off. That's the gel coat and just some resin supporting it right now. I'll trim him after he cools down just a little bit, and then get these pushed over somewhere over there and get back to work on other things. Okay, so we're familiar with that one. That's done. I shrunk up the 1 3/4. I'm holding it flat on the bench right now to get this tacked. Other than that, it's free. I mean, I got that much. So this one went together way better, but the second one always does, doesn't it? It goes together way faster than the first one because you know what not to do. I have a lot of conversations about people with, you know, can I learn this? Can I learn this in a couple of weeks? Can I learn it? You can learn anything, but when the nuances come with failure, right? They come with making the mistakes that you don't want to make, or overcompensating, or all those things. But anyway, that's my philosophy. So now I'll weld this guy up, and then we'll have to determine how wide it's going to be so we can put something in flange to flange. And of course I'll have to dress the corners. This one's tilted back a little bit. This one is, that one's actually tilted back a little bit. This one's pretty good. Probably in here needs to be tapped. This one's leaning in a little bit, you know, all that kind of thing. So we'll have to get all that straightened out and get the 2 halves put together to make one. So keep cruising. All right, straight off of the weld and grind phase. So these are the 2 pieces that 2 ends that I welded together. You can actually see where the material was stretched out as I hammered it over a dolly on both sides. See, I concentrated on this side of the weld. Took the weld, this is just 80 grit on a Roloc, you know, nothing special. So then I took the thing over and I had to hit a couple of shrinks and stretches, because of course when you weld it moves material 100% of the time, not never, 100%. So as I line this up, now we get straight on the bottom line, and we get straight on the top line. There's a little bit of work right here. I guess I could do that and then come around, see, and then it's got to be shrunk a little here, but see, this material is going to move when I start to put the 2 halves together. And I could stretch a little right in here. I'm going to put the 2 halves together and then I can play with it. But all in all, I'm very, very happy with it so far. Now the hard part. Everything else was easy up to now. Okay, I got both edges cut clean. It winds up being pretty close to the center. And there's, you know, you can see a little light gap, but I can hit that with the filler rod. I've got a spot right here that is perfectly flat. I'm holding it on the 2 ends. You can see this is set back, but I can get, as I move the material and work in one direction, I can get around here. I can start here, shoot off that way or that way, and work my way around. So, wish me luck. Okay, I thought I'd bring you in real quick. Okay, so you can see my starts and stops. And as I'm coming along here now, I'm trying to, I had a little bit of a gap right here. I'm running into a little bit of a gap there, and that heat signature, you know, starts to expand a little bit as I'm dropping. But Now we're getting to this area here, and I can feel a small edge as I work around into this corner. So now I'm going to get as close as I can and then start to take that 2-inch pipe and dolly as I work around that corner. Whew. Going okay though. Okay, for a variety of reasons I opted to go that way, because as I'm welding, that's trying to open up naturally because it's gravity's that direction. It's falling and spreading. So I'm going to get this side done, and then I think come to this side, one of these two sides, but I want to get one whole end done first. It's going very well. Okay, around that corner, just around that corner, and you get to the point where you just know now you're going to make it. Just a little hammer and dolly there, just the opposite over here. That was the long corner. Probably a little shrinking and stretching because I'm sure the whole thing is going to be a little bit smaller. But I know it's going to work out now. So it's going very, very well. I'm getting excellent penetration. Welding it from the back side. So I may have some low areas and stuff. The plan is for the molding, for the garnish molding, is to grain it, is to wood grain it. So it's getting covered. Not an excuse, a reality. I want to have wood grain accents in the car. Not a ton, but I want to have accents because it's Chrysler. So anyway, I'm going to keep pumping along here and keep my gaps and keep working it until I get her done. This is taking a while, but I'm very, very happy with it so far. All right, on the door panels, I pulled the molds off the plugs. For some strange reason, and it probably is the age of the gel coat, but it sat overnight and it cured on the surface, but down low, right on the edges, it seemed to push out. But I mean, it's not a big deal. The molds turned out really good. This is just material from the side of the plug. It's got part all between it, and so when I wash this down, that'll all come off. This one mold here looks like resin leaked through right there, and then the gel coat, it just left a little edge, but that's easy. I can block that in. Other than that, it's just everything about it is just spectacular. I got to get the part all off of it, but it just really, really looks good. This one, same thing. Looks like a little resin eked in right there. Again, part of the plug come with it. And again, that'll all come off. But I'll just have to wet sand this area here. But I mean, nothing dramatic. Everything just looks really, really, really good. So, happy with it. And now we got to start making a bunch of parts out of it. Maybe I can give a visual here. So this would be, that's for the door latches. This is the bottom, the rounded part is the top. So the passenger door, I look back, is sitting open. This would be the one. So again, it won't go all the way up because that protrusion is what's cut out for that. So this will sit right underneath the garnish molding, and then your handle and your window switch will be right there, and then it'll be a slab to the bottom. It'll stay above the seats. The backrest will clear it. It'll hide the motor and add some dimension to the door. So I'm very happy with it, and Now we got to make, technically we got to make 6, 7, 8 parts. So 4 in each of these molds, but actually 7 parts, because one of them, I just got to lay up a bed of fiberglass for 2 2-inch pieces for these rails. You see the void there, but the rail between the 2 doors is just a continuation of that design. So yeah, working well. Alrighty, dighty duty. I ran the DA across it. You can see a couple of dimple marks in there, and you can see, you know, it's all dollied. Now I welded it from this side. I can't get, I mean, I can get in there with a, you know, barrel type flapper or something and clean it up, but it's really not worth it. So I cleaned the welds down flush to the metal. Both this side went a little better than the other side, and it sits nice and flat. There's just a small amount. If I set that on the corner, just barely touches it. So there's no pressure at all that as far as putting it in. Took a while. It dimensions out. The gap dimensions out perfectly all the way around within a 32nd of an inch. No lie. So now I'll just dress it with a skim coat, sand it. Again, this gets covered in a wood grain. So very happy with it, and took a while to trim. For trimming, I have a scribe right here. And all I've done is stuck a long scribe on one side to follow an edge. And because the inside profile fits the cardboard, and I finessed that, I kept working on that, and every time you dolly on something, you know, you're going to stretch that material and it's going to change the shape. So I just kept going back and forth until I got it. And there's some of the tools that I used right there to planish it and straighten it. And at this point now, it's ready to clean up and get ready to for the interior guy to use it. It's getting ready to. The reason why I made that, I guess, you know, whatever, ADD kicks in, is because I have to make that rear panel right there. And so I got to get that guy fitted in there to give me the dimensions of the oval to put in for the rear panel. So, yay. So I've been toiling over getting that made because of that curve, and getting that made because of the 2 curves on each outside corner. I got, of course, had that in, drilled and screwed the holes, or drilled the holes and tapped them for the, you know, for all the inserts. And I made a little die, you know, to properly dimple all of those, so the screw head, so the screw head sits flush, you know, and looks like the rest of them. So I was looking up, how do you bend melamine or hardboard? And there's a guy on YouTube, an older gentleman, and he said, get Windex. And he did a demonstration with Windex, all live, has to be the original. Why, I don't know. Does it have ammonia? I don't know. He said it was because of the ammonia. So I sprayed the backs of these, you know, the more absorbent side. And I'll be darned if it didn't. It's got to go flat, 31 inches, and that's, I got my clamp in the center right now because it pushed right to the board after a little bit. From here to here is 31 inches. The rear window is in there, and then it wraps around and comes out 8 inches, which is right here. I need my board to be at least that long, and I didn't shorten it or anything. And I'll be darned, it actually worked. I just built this rig out of just leftover stuff laying around, screwed it together. There's the old bracing for the running boards. Still have it laying around, but it's, you know, it's 1.5 inch plywood and high density fiber, so it's definitely gave me a nice flat surface. And I mean, it looks spectacular. It's tight all the way around. It looks spectacular. So we'll see if it keeps its form. It's supposed to release the glue and then, you know, and then evaporate and come off again. But he says to apply it after a half an hour again once you get the form. So I'll be doing that. And if that works, that's how I'm doing the roof. You got to make some sort of a jig, something to hold it in its shape. But I want to do something that's going to come around there now too. So I'll just determine the radius and do it over at 42.5, I think, inches is the width. And I don't know the total length yet. Probably, hopefully less than 96 inches. I think it will be. And then we'll make that work. I'll pick up a sheet and we'll make that work for the headliner. That would be dandy. Sure as heck speeds things up. Now I have to get after the molds and get that cleaned up. All right. It's been a couple of hours. Most of the humidity has dried away. There's some there. I'm gonna try it. I pushed a little bit. I'm not going to pull it out because I'm going to let it dry completely. It pushed out a little bit because you can see on the line right there, it's got a gap. There. I can't believe that. Now, if I'd have done that on a raw piece of hardboard, it would have sprung right out of there. That's awesome. Back on the molds then. Like anything, you know, you pop them out and they're not super complex, you know, and I got the negative draft and stuff, but there was some adhesion issues, and I had an air bubble that ran that whole length down in that corner. And so you know, as soon as you start getting in and checking, I saw it was just the, you know, the gel coat that was there, and it was a blind hole behind, so I dug that out. Something happened in the mold. It had a wave right here, so I sanded that out and finished that corner off. Just from pulling it out, both of them, you know, this was molded around. Now this flange is just to give me the flat area. I'll probably come past it, you know, on both sides. And then on the top, I'll come up to it, and then I'm going to put a piece of sheet metal, bent 90, right on top of the, either just the cloth or the cloth in one layer of mat on here. Then I'll anchor in a piece of sheet metal across there, because that goes underneath the garnish molding. And then on the bottom, there will be a piece of sheet metal that'll go straight across to hold the pins. The pins will be hidden, but you know, with enough room to get them in underneath. So these are done. They're wet sanded out to 600, and they're ready for spraying. So I think I'll throw some Pardal on them tonight, and then start laying them up tomorrow.